Hi everyone, I'm Mara Webster with SAG-AFTRA Foundation, and we are continuing our really wonderful series of conversations at home, and I'm really thrilled today to be talking about the movie Almost Love. We have Mike Doyle joining us, who is the writer and director. We have Scott Evans and Augustus Prew, who are the two leads in the film. I wanted to kick it off by asking you, Mike, a little bit about the genesis of when you were writing the film. I know that one of the first scenes that you wrote was actually 4 of the characters from the ensemble all together in a restaurant, and how that really served as the jumping off point for creating the entire world that these characters exist in together.
Yeah, I sort of envisioned sort of a dinner date gone wrong. We find out that our boys are celebrating their anniversary and they're having a double date. So just sort of laying the foundation of something's a little off. And then, of course, the Henry character has a secret. I also, the film is very sort of dialogue forward and language heavy. And I wanted to establish that at the very beginning, that these characters are storytellers. They know how to articulate their feelings sometimes. They know how to sort of look at life with a little bit of humor and see the irony in all of it.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask you about casting for the roles of Adam and Mark Lynn, because I know that it was very important to you that you cast actors who identify as gay, and why that was something that felt really valuable as part of the film.
Yeah, for me, I wanted my 2 romantic leads who are playing openly gay characters to be openly gay actors. And that's not, I'm not going so far as to say that, only gay people can play gay parts and straight people play straight parts. I think it's acting, so we can all play a bunch of things. But for me, recently, there's been a lot of celebration about the bravery of certain straight people playing gay roles, and that sort of just hits me not in the best of ways. And I don't think you see very often openly gay actors carrying films. And so it was really important to me. And also, practically, we were working under very intense conditions. We had to shoot 105 pages in 18 days, and we didn't have a lot of time for rehearsal. We had a day of rehearsal, and I needed actors who understood these parts on a molecular level. And so, I mean, part of that may have been a little bit of a cheat, but Scott and Augie really were able to bring a lot of their life to the screen.
Yeah. And then, since Mike was mentioning that you were shooting the whole film in just 18 days and you really didn't have much time for rehearsal, I was interested for you, Scott and Augustus, what some of the really important prep work that you did for yourselves to make sure that you came in really prepared day one, ready to dive straight into the central core of these characters.
I think the key with anything is creating chemistry initially. If the whole, the movie is based off their chemistry. So, I mean, the best work I think you can do as actors is truly to go and get drunk together. Just to hang out. It's just to hang out and yes, just kind of, share notes and your thoughts on background and stuff like that. But honestly, chemistry is something that just comes from hanging out. It comes from a shared set of we agree that the characters feel this about each other. And then the interactions, you just have to sort of leap off and trust it. And that says a lot about Mike's casting. Particularly because Scott and I have done another movie after this movie together, again playing a couple. So I guess Mike touched on chemistry, I guess, that was sort of naturally there in place. I was happy to find. It's not always the case, but it certainly was the case for this, right? I mean, we did, Mike is underplaying. We had a weekend of kind of rehearsals and sussing things out and just sort of talking. But then a lot of it was, Mike is very collaborative on set. So a lot of it was, we would shoot to script, and then we would dabble a little bit with improvising around some stuff and kind of fleshing stuff out in the moment. And it was a fast-paced shoot, but it didn't feel it didn't feel detrimental to the movie. If anything, it kept us on our instincts. You just have to trust your gut. And so I feel like a lot of the a lot of it was already in place. There was a lot of assumed sort of a shared culture because we are both gay, for instance. So there is a dialogue and a language there that queer people kind of speak without having to force it, really. Also touching back on, I'll finish my answer soon. Touching back on what Mike said, I think that's an important point about casting gay actors in gay roles. I think, we're at an affirmative action stage. It's this unsaid homophobia, unfortunately, in casting, whereby, it's, as Mike touched on, it's celebrated for straight men to play gay roles, but it's rare for gay actors especially, to play certainly a leading role, but also to play straight roles. And unfortunately, it doesn't work both ways. And until there is some kind of equanimity there, there's some kind of equality in the way that casting is done. I think affirmative action is a really important thing right now. So I'm very pro that movement for now, until it produces kind of the results that we need in order to make the system fairer. Because right now it's not, and it's an awkward point. It's a little controversial. Some people disagree. Some people agree. I personally think that affirmative action is a very positive thing at this time. Although obviously we're at a very different time now. So we'll see what happens moving forward. Scott?
I mean, everything you just said. No, I think preparing for this was kind of like having Mike be so close to the project in terms of being the writer and the director and the creator, and just the fact that he is an actor himself, I think made having to kind of just be thrown into this and like be together, made it a lot more comfortable. And I will say, going into it, I was terrified. This was my first, as they say it, like number one or whatever. And I didn't even think of it until Mike said, he was like, before we started, he's like, "You're my number one." I was like, wait a minute. On the call, that's like, there's so much pressure, because when your number 2 is Augie and number 3 is Kate Walsh and then 4 Michelle and 5 Zoe, it was just like, how am I going to do this? And like, I remember the first day just on set with Augie, he just comes in, just like kind of no bullshit, like not, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you." It's like, we're friends, we're together, we're going to work on this, let's do it. And it was like, okay. And it was just made it very easy kind of just to like settle into a sort of routine. And there are times on set we can be very yin and yang and want to do it differently, but it always kind of came together in a way that I think produced a great result.
I was really fortunate to have a cast that this ensemble that everybody was really down for the experience and knew what it was and sort of rolled up their sleeves collectively. I was really fortunate to have Scott and Augie in those leading roles, because it all sort of trickles down and they really set the bar and set the tone for the rest of the players and for the crew too. That's sort of essential to pull something off like this, that's incredibly challenging.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask you, Mike, about your style as a director, because obviously you've got an incredibly impressive array of experience as an actor. So I imagine that, you really understand what you're asking of your cast, and what was the way that was important for you to communicate with them to get the best performances from everybody?
Well, first and foremost, I think my job as a director is casting well. So there was something that everybody just had that I saw in Scott's tape, I saw in Augie's tape. Because, I was very mindful. I didn't want to direct anybody into my performance of their character if I were acting it. I wanted to be very hands-off that way and give people just sort of lead the team with confidence and instill a sense of safety and freedom, that if someone wanted to try something that was outrageous and it didn't work, that they felt comfortable exploring and failing and succeeding. The job of a director is many things, but it's mostly to take these amazing tools in this toolbox you have and just adjust them. Just give minor tweaks, because they, they're so gifted, and they had a clear sense of character and material, and also just their overall aesthetic. I wanted to create grounds in which that could thrive.
Yeah. And then with you, Scott and Augustus, you share so many scenes together, and you're really pushing yourselves into a lot of different emotional layers with each other, which I imagine requires a lot of trust to really feel that freedom to allow yourself to go into these spaces. What were the things that the other one would do for you to really create that environment on set together? So kind of for you, Scott, like what was it that Augustus did as a performer that helped you to feel like you were in the best space, and vice versa?
Augie, like I said in the answer before, Augie just made it very, it was very comfortable for me, because like there was a lot of the time I'm a thinker. I'm a very type A personality. Like I like things, I like an order, and I like that. And I think a lot of the times me going in there with the order and just having, Augie be like, well, let's throw out the order. Let's throw all that out and like, let's just go, would kind of just take all of that pressure off of it, and would just immediately kind of lock us into it. And then when you go back to the order, you go back to the script, like you can find it. But I think having that moment of like making myself uncomfortable because he was so comfortable really helped me to, get to the places I need to get.
I think also we, again, speaks to Mike, sort of fostering this very safe environment that was very conducive to trying things out and taking risks. So yeah, again, it was a rush. It was a fast shoot, but I wouldn't call it a rushed shoot. I think we made firm decisions in rehearsal, and then the rehearsal was free to play around, and then we stuck with them and shot it out quickly and then moved on to the next one. So rehearsal was always kind of key, like the rehearsal the first day, because we hadn't done a scene together, was very long. It was about an hour. We had a full hour and a half, which for film is not normal. So we still found time to sort of create this relationship whereby we would just throw things at a wall and see what would stick and see what worked for both of us, and kind of create chemistry in this way that was very, I chuck the ball to him, he chucks it to me. It wasn't about who's going to be, it was a team. It's a team effort. If one of us is bad, then we're both bad. If the central relationship doesn't work, then the movie's going to suck, and no one wants to be in a movie that sucks. So it was sort of a very lovely environment where people were very supportive of each other, and I think that's really that's the most important thing. If you feel relaxed and you feel in a space where you can create something, and it doesn't feel like a test. There's that thing where some projects where, the bell goes and everyone starts getting nervous before the first take. And what are you doing? The opposite thing needs to happen. You need to be really relaxed. Just trust the other person. It's not a test. It's not a competition. We're all in this together. The crew were lovely. The crew were brilliant. And it was just a fun vibe on set where everyone was, as Mike said, kind of committed to the project. Really, it wasn't like we have a huge budget on this movie, so it wasn't like everyone was there for the paycheck or anything like that. They were there because they believed in the movie. So I think when people kind of come at it from that point of view, it fosters a really lovely sort of environment. When we wrapped, by the end of the shoot, we were all hanging out together. All the crew and the cast were very good friends. It was this very, people wanted to see everyone else do their best work. And I think it's shockingly rare, actually, on a film set that you have everybody singing from the same hymn sheet,
Yeah.
So I think that's the key to it, really.
Yeah. Having, this career that I've cobbled together as an actor, I'm sort of like, an itinerant worker on many, many sets and working with very different people all the time. And I used that as my film school and took from the best directors that I worked with. And the ones that I felt I feel are most successful are the ones who create an overall sense of security and leadership and confidence. And, I wanted, to go back to one of your first questions about the chemistry between Scott and Augie. I didn't want them to meet on set the first day and have to do their first scene and just meet each other, which often happens just because the constraints of time and budget. So we carved out some time in between wardrobe fittings where they could speak the words before coming on set and having to say them the first time to their partner of 5 years. So it was a really nice vibe. And to Augie's point, many people have become very good friends out of this, which is so rare, and a testament, really to everybody.
Yeah. And then Mike, because obviously you've got these two central characters, but it really is also at the same time an ensemble piece. And I was interested in how you made sure that you were servicing every single character, because they all feel incredibly three-dimensional. They're all really well fleshed out. And was that something that really started, and the genesis of that was from the script?
Yeah, when Scott said type A, Scott, Augie, and I are all Virgos, and Zoe Chow is a Virgo. We had a lot of Virgos on set. So I like a problem, but I like a solution. I love a puzzle. I love a crossword puzzle. I love a movie, an ensemble film that's a patchwork of disparate elements that somehow come together. And I think, in the couples, the iterations of the couples, Scott and Marklin and Adam, Scott and Augie skew probably the most heartfelt and more serious and dramatic. And then Michelle and Colin are sort of on the other end of that spectrum, being more humorous. And so I wanted to sort of keep that balance, keep it aloft. And it was important for me making, what is ostensibly a gay film, to make it different than gay films we've seen before, in that the characters have already come out, they've already battled their adversity, and they're in a relationship, and there's something that we can all relate to being in a relationship. I mean, sometimes, because I'm single now, so I don't know what it's like to be in a relationship. So I made a movie about people who stay together.
I think crucially as well, we were trying, when we were discussing sort of background and group dynamics and that kind of stuff, we enter this relationship that you have to have sort of echoes of how good they were. Mm-hmm. But we're entering a relationship that's in crisis. We're entering a relationship that's on the skids right now. So, and yet you still need to make the characters likable, but these characters also have to be very frustrated with each other. And that's quite a fine line to tread. You have to make these characters, truthfully, they have to sort of not be their best selves. They have to be they're irritated with each other. They're sort of having an existential crisis of sorts. They're dealing with all their own sort of trauma and issues of self-worth, and then how that manifests in a relationship, but then how it manifests in a relationship whereby you have to sort of be able to see through that and still root for the characters despite their problems. And a lot of that, I think, came from the group dynamic. This friendship group sort of did a lot of the work for us, because the group existed before they had problems. So we still see the echoes of how much these people love each other from their friends and from the relationship and from the world that they created and from the group dynamic, the big ensemble dynamic. It's what kind of underpins and what kind of gets us all behind each relationship, because every other relationship believes in the other relationship. It's just within the individual relationships, that's where the conflict lies. And so it's a really, again, going back to how sort of each person had to do that, each individual relationship had to sort of be the backbone for everyone else's relationship, if that makes sense. Does that make sense what I just said? I didn't explain that very well. Basically, the dynamic in the whole group is what makes you believe in the individual relationships. There we go. That was a much simpler way of saying it. You should edit that in where I sound like yeah, not the long 5-minute version, just that little 30-second buzzword. That was good. So yes, so again, that was down to the group dynamic of the cast, I guess. I for instance, for Marklin's character, I think the big scene that kind of makes you go, oh, he's not really uptight all the time, there's a reason that he's that uptight, is with Michelle, for instance. So again, it's that dynamic that then informs the dynamic with Scott's character, and that, I think, is that's kind of one of the lovely parts of the movie is, you know, I would want to be friends with this group. This is a lovely group of friends. This is a group of friends that I would want to be part of and that I enjoy watching, and it's a group of friends that I believe in. You know what I mean? So I think that is what the secret to the movie working is, in my opinion.
Yeah. Scott, I wanted to talk a little bit about your character and his creativity and his artwork, because he's at a place where he's not able to be successful in the way that he wants in his career. And he's actually a ghost painter for an established painter who's selling her art, obviously with him actually doing the behind the scenes work on everything. And I think the way that you play it, it feels so relatable, and it really, I think, connects with everybody who's done anything creative and tried to make a career out of it. And those choices that you have to make day by day as to what sacrifices you're willing to make for yourself to go there. And I was interested in how you said about navigating that path for him.
Well, I think it's so funny. Whenever I think about people, the amount of people that are out there making things that are just, you know, potentially not getting seen, and you know, does your art, does your music, does your films, does it mean nothing if it doesn't get seen, or does it mean everything just because you created them? And I think back to going into like CD stores growing up and just looking around and being like, these are just all the people that like were able to make CDs. Am I showing my age? Just to like actually make the music versus all the people that are still making it out there. And so I think in terms of Adam, it's sort of just like the thing where, yeah, he's not getting recognition for his art, but he's getting to do it. And I think that's where he is and how he's able to do it. And this is, you know, he tells himself it's only temporary, but it's, you know, when you see the film, it's temporary becomes almost permanent. And you get kind of stuck because you start to feel, am I creating for myself? Am I creating for other people? Am I creating for somebody else, basically? And that's what he's doing. And I think it really kind of is sort of a mind fuck. Can I say that?
Yeah. Yes.
For his character.
And Mike, I wanted to kind of ask you a little bit about the actual artwork in the film, because you sourced artwork that has a really distinct voice, whether it's the pieces that Adam is creating for Ravella or whether it's the own pieces that he's secretly been working on that we see later on in the film. And I heard that you sought out an artist in the Czech Republic, that you were able to get some of their artwork and reproduce it, and how that process went to include it in the film.
That was the thing I was really concerned about on the budget that we had, because if you get the artwork wrong, you can always tell when it's like, you know, someone in-house made it. So one of the producers was in touch with this gallery in Czech Republic in Prague. So Ravella's work was by an artist from that gallery in Czech Republic. And then Adam's work was also from that gallery, another Czech artist, because it needed to be different. And I wanted it to be suggestive rather than completed, because it's still, you know, he's launching, you know, it's still sort of nascent, this desire and push to do his own work. The painting that is his at the end, the naked figure, it was really naked.
Went through some changes.
We had to fix it because it had a rather large member that would have been really distracting in the last scene.
It was aggressively big.
Yeah, it would
have stolen focus from the whole entire.
It really would have.
It had to be covered up.
But yeah, so I just, you know, I wanted to get the artwork right, and we were really lucky to land on the artists that we did.
Yeah, and the artist that Adam is painting for, that we've been mentioning, Ravella, is played by the incredible Patricia Clarkson. And I feel like it's such a testament to her skill as an actor that she can come in for one scene and really kind of steal the show, and has clearly prepared a lot. And I was interested in kind of what her approach was and the way that she came in on set to really just come in and nail it and give that great performance.
Yeah, she was, you know, we were really lucky to have her for the day that we had her. Came in, had really clear ideas of what she wanted to do. She wanted to wear glasses. She had some very specific ideas that thankfully, were in concert with what we were doing. And she just, you know, she charmed everyone, and she just knocked it out of the park. Yeah.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about film festivals and the importance of that community and the journey that this film had, because, you know, obviously right now, since we're all staying in our homes and mass gatherings have been put on pause, every single week there's another festival that's being postponed, that's being canceled. And fortunately, prior to the VOD release of this film, you were able to take it to a lot of, specifically as well, LGBTQ festivals. And I was interested in kind of how important that community was in terms of taking the film on the road, and the response that you were able to get, and the conversations that it sparked by being in the room with people.
It was essential. Yeah, absolutely essential. And my heart is breaking for all the filmmakers whose years and years of work doesn't have that outlet, right? Those filmmakers don't have that outlet right now. And because for some films, it's the only outlet. It's where it's where a number of things happen, where you build an audience, you create community, you create buzz, you get potential distribution, as we did, get reviews, you get to see your work on a big screen. And that's all a filmmaker really wants. And while I was very saddened that our theatrical component was taken away because of this, I had to sort of count my blessings, because I got to see it many times with many different audiences all around the country. And really, because it's a comedy, it plays in a theater very differently than watching it alone. And there is something about the energy in a room and what that brings to the experience of watching a film such as this. So we can't get back soon enough to communing again in public spaces, in theaters, in restaurants. You know, it's we're not meant to be alone, and certainly not meant to be alone watching movies and plays.
And then for each of you, I was interested in the ways in which you're trying to remain connected to your craft and creativity, whilst obviously we are in this position for the time being.
I think luckily the fact that we have all of this to do, and the fact that during our time we happen to have a film that's very close to us, and that means a lot to me, that we still get to promote and we still get to share. And I think that's going to be very exciting for me tomorrow, to get to kind of connect in a different way that doesn't, you do your best to try to not make it feel like, hey, while you're all at home, let me promote something. But it is that. It is, especially at this time, there needs to be, people need entertainment, people need distractions. And I think if we're even able to provide a little one, it makes me happy.
I'm struggling personally. I'm really struggling to motivate. So I'm just going to be honest and say I'm not connected to my creativity right now. And it's an issue. I have a few auditions come in on from my agents, but I'm really struggling to get stuff done right now, because I'm just sort of the inertia from my sort of nihilism is a little overwhelming right now, to be quite frank with you. How are you keeping engaged? I'm not. I'm sitting around eating crisps. I'm watching a lot of TV and just trying to sort of relax currently and take it one day at a time right now. My husband, on the other hand, is doing very well. He's being very productive currently. He's written a movie that they're going to make in quarantine. Everybody's shooting their own bit in a sort of selfie environment. So it's not to say that you can't be incredibly creative. I'm just not one of those people yet, and I aspire to get there. But right now, I'm not, and I have to be okay with that, to be quite frank with you.
But I think it's just as important to address that side of things. I think when we all kind of first went into this space, it was, oh, here you can take Ivy League courses online, you can learn a new language, you should be doing yoga 10 times a day because you're at home. And now we're seeing that second wave where it is a lot of stress and anxiety to deal with. I know that I've felt that, and I think a lot of friends, it's coming in waves day by day.
Yeah, the way I'm experiencing it now, like putting a film out into the world, a thing that you've exerted great control over for many years, and there's an inherent feeling once you launch it that you're no longer in control of it. People are going to love it, hate it, somewhere in between, and it's got to be its own thing. But that feeling within the macro lens of feeling completely out of control in the world is it's tough. It's tough. And I hope this film can offer a 90-minute respite where people can laugh and love for a time. So that's my hope.
Yeah, I really hope that it does as well. And I know that was definitely what watching this film did for me. And it was exactly the tone that I didn't know that I needed, but I wanted. And so I want to thank you for making the film and still kind of connecting it to audiences in this way and taking the time to talk so openly and honestly about all of the day by day and your process and your craft and all of those things. And I hope that everyone watching this will check out Almost Love on video on demand. And thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.